Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Look, the government's making much of the fact that the mining tax doesn't work, that it will not collect enough money. And that is true. It is not working as it was hoped it would work. It is not collecting the sort of money that it was expected to collect. But why doesn't the government, instead of just getting rid of it, why doesn't the government fix it? There are any number of ways in which the mining tax could be enhanced to achieve the sort of revenue that is in the forward estimates, the sort of revenue that this country desperately needs to look after the people who need looking after the most. I mean, at the end of the day, what is the role of government? Yes, it's to keep our country safe, but it's also to make sure that everyone gets a fair go in the community, to make sure that the people who rely on the public health system can have the best public health system in the world. The people that need to rely on the public education system can have the best education in the world. The people who need to rely on public housing, that they don't have to wait years on a list. The people with a disability, that they get the very best care in the world. That's what a primary responsibility of any decent government is. Surely it is the responsibility of this government to pick up the mining tax that it was left by the previous government and to fix it. For example, to do away with the outrageous depreciation provisions which allow the 3 mining companies that basically designed the tax that prevent them getting away with blue murder. The fact that companies like BHP, Xstrata and Rio have so much that they can write off that they will pay next to no tax for quite some time to come. Well, let's get rid of those depreciation provisions and make the settings right and allow the tax to collect the sort of money it should be collecting. What about increasing the rate? The fact is that any company in this country, if they're making a genuine super profit, then they should pay their fair share of tax. Maybe consideration should be given to increasing the rate. Consideration should be given to fixing the royalty provisions, which are allowing state governments to do whatever they want with the royalties, knowing that it'll be reimbursed by the Commonwealth. What about expanding it to other resources, expanding it to gold, expanding it to uranium, instead of having it restricted to a very narrow set of resources? And in fact, while we're at it, why don't we have a conversation about doing this right, and instead of having a very, very narrow resource rent tax, having a genuine super profits tax? Because surely any industry, any sector of the economy, any business in this country that makes a genuine super profit can afford to pay a bit more. Do you know in fiscal 12-13 the 4 banks made almost $30 billion in profits? 4 banks, 4 companies, 4 Australian companies made almost $30,000 million in profit. Now they're crying poor. They're saying it's a very poor return on their investment. Well, I reckon that's hogwash. Surely the banks, surely the big miners like BHP, Xstrata and Rio can afford to pay a bit more, because it is completely unacceptable that we continue to live in a country where people wait 3 years for a hip operation. They go to a substandard school despite the best efforts of the teachers. They wait years for public housing. They live in a state where the state government won't even cough up $300 for a wheelchair, while companies like BHP, Rio, Xstrata, companies like the Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, ANZ and NAB are pocketing enormous sums of money. There is a fundamental inequity in this which a decent government would do something about. And even if we don't have a super profits tax applying to all sectors of the economy, all companies who operate in the economy, well, let's at least have the sort of resource super profits tax that Ken Henry recommended. Now, Ken Henry is one of the leading minds in this country. He made a number of very, very well-researched, credible recommendations to the previous government. And if the previous government wasn't going to listen to those good recommendations, then maybe a decent current or future government would pick up those recommendations, then run with it. You know, the federal budget in this financial year has a forecast revenue of $388 billion. That's $388,000 million. But yet, we're going to rip money off people on low incomes who want a bit of a hand with accumulating their super. We're going to take money away from disadvantaged families who need a bit of help with their school costs. Now, what's going on here? You know, we talk about a corporate rate cut. We talk about a better deal for the miners and not getting into the banks, when in when in any number of electorates people need a bit of a hand, and this tax is one way of creating the money to give them a hand.
Give the call to the member for Dawson.